This week's Click will be music to your ears, hopefully, as we play the tech that can tease a tune out of anything. We're in Boston to meet the hackers trying to create music suited to everyone's taste. And we meet the man who made it his mission to digitise a real classic. All that plus the latest tech news and something fresh in Webscape.
Welcome to Click, I'm Spencer Kelly. This week's programme has a musical motif, so I've decided to come to the home of the proms, the Royal Albert Hall.
Since the hall first opened in 1871, a wide variety of different acts has graced its stage, from classical orchestras to exponents of electronica.
Excuse the rehearsals, but I do have a show to put on tonight. The Albert Hall doesn't just play host to musicians and performers though. In the coming weeks, a digital classroom will open to the public here, which aims to explore and teach more about the links between music, technology and science. And it's in here.
In an attempt to make this venerable venue relevant to Generation 1D, the Hall's education team has created special apps which demonstrate the importance of maths to music.
Within the tablets themselves, the kids will be able to use an application that we've created where we'll get them to tap in or using their pens music notes, and then from there they will create fractions, and from the fractions they will create their beats. And then at the end of that we're then able to have them record those beats and that sound with a brilliant piece of music that they can take home with them. So the satisfaction of doing that and creating music digitally, yeah, I think they should be pretty impressed.
Tablets, one way to inspire the new generation of maestros that might one day take to this stage. And in fact, technology is now being used to help them to collaborate on all sorts of bizarre compositions.
The Hackathon. The concept is simple. Stick a bunch of geeks in a room with plenty of pizza, caffeine and a whole load of kit and wait 24 hours and see if they can cook up something interesting. Well, LJ Rich went to Boston recently to visit a very special hackathon, one dedicated to music technology. And I have to say, it didn't do too badly.
This is MJ. He's a pan-piping beatboxer. He's just popped in to see how things are going at the Music Tech Fest Hackathon. Yes, it's the convention that brings together the most creative and eccentric tech music people on the planet. And it's famous for its 24-hour hackathon, which I'm going to enter. Last year's winner made this, the Quirkitar. Adam John Williams hacked a guitar accessory to make a whole new noise. My mission this year is to hack something musically awesome and make it through 24 hours of hardcore coding, along with the obligatory pizza. Some people have come here with ideas in mind, like Sean Manton. He's a gifted musician, biomedical researcher, coder and fire dancer. And that's a dragon staff.
I'm thinking about putting some sort of rotational sensors on it.
To make that work, physical designer Elio Ikaza Milson will help Sean to 3D print a holder for a microsensor. It's all quite fun, but I don't have any ideas yet. 10 hours in, we move to a TV studio up the road for the overnight segment. Red Star Union is a cool venue with a stage, musicians and a room full of kit to stream music content live on the web. But tonight it's also rammed with Oculus Rift controllers, computers and hackers wherever we can fit. In the back room, James here is making a guitar controller. With some nifty coding, he's going to accompany himself with the help of lots of wires and a paper plate. James is using a program called Max MSP, which is used a lot in media applications. By now, it's way past our bedtime, so to keep our energy up, we decide to take to the stage for some very loud brainstorming. OK, back to work. One of my stage cohorts was CJ Carr. He's a hacker specialising in machine-generated music and music therapy. CJ's working on what he's calling a hexadeciphus, a 16-legged music controller made from a playable painting.
I want this to be my instrument.
It's about 4 AM, so I compose some music for the hexadeciphus. It's in 17/4 because it has 16 legs and a head. It's fun collaborating.
If you come to the festival and you collide with another wonderful mind who have been researching something very different from you, you two may find synergies and something magical may happen.
Meanwhile, the 3D printers are printing Sean and Elio's microsensor holder, and CJ's been covering everything in sight with conductive paint and crocodile clips. He's using a Makey controller to connect the conductive paint segments to a computer. I'm trying to work out whether staying up all night is kind of lowering barriers to creativity or just making us crazy. I kind of think it might be both. Finally, inspiration struck over breakfast when I said a donut tasted of D major. For the first time in my life, people heard that and thought data set. So they asked me a few more questions and we ate a few more donuts.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
You see, I have synesthesia where my senses are mixed together a bit. One of the connections is that I hear music when I eat things. Yes, really. Alex Dorsk and Danny Kirshner are developers who liked this idea, so together we made an app that pairs food with music, and we're going to build it. Alex is using a program called Balsamiq. It's like a sketchpad for working out what an app might look like. It helps us imagine the layout and what we'd like it to do. And Dan is making the back end on a program called Ruby on Rails. And I'm working on which data is requested and how the app and the user will interact. Wow, I'm finally hacking at a hackathon and it feels so good. We're nearing the 24-hour hacking mark and, well, we have an app. We finish the first draft just in time and go back to Microsoft Research to present our idea, Soundbites. 3, 2, 1, eat. Okay, so now you're chewing it. Now you've got that kind of dark, spicy, and that semi-dissonance as it kind of dissolves. And after 30 hours of being awake, I'm not tired. I'm excited to see what everyone else has come up with. And Sean's dragon staff works a treat. The faster he spins it, the faster the music plays. CJ's Hexadecipus controller is also a triumph. And my team won one of the top prizes for our app. We're continuing to work on it together, making me a fully fledged music hacker. So watch this space.
LJ Rich. I wonder what the BBC canteen food sounds like to her. Talking of which, we all know what a trumpet sounds like, right? And a guitar. But what about the Albert Hall handrails? Or the glass doors? Or the railings across the way?
It's called Moji, and the dongle here can be attached to pretty much any surface. Furniture, trees, kitchenware. As long as it's not too solid and can vibrate just a little bit, the Moji will detect those vibrations and the accompanying app will turn them into sounds, so the whole world can become your orchestra. Designer and ex-drummer Bruno Zamborlin has even added a mode for those who are less musically minded, which will play a predefined tune as you tap out the rhythm.
But because I'm not the best drummer in the world, in fact I'm not even the best drummer in this shot, we thought we'd let Bruno play us all the way to this week's Tech News.
Ladar Leveson has lost his latest fight against the FBI. The founder of encrypted email provider LavaBit, used by Edward Snowden, was appealing a ruling that said he'd refused to hand over encryption keys to his site. Leveson told Click earlier this year that by handing over the keys, it would grant the government access to its 400,000-strong users. Mt. Gox, once the world's biggest Bitcoin exchange, has been placed into administration by a Japanese court. The exchange announced in February that hackers had stolen hundreds of thousands of bitcoins, worth around £300 million. Those hoping to get their money back are being asked to make any claims to the court, although as yet no time frame has been set for the process. prepare to make those annoying TV show spoilers a thing of the past, at least if you're using the Chrome browser. A new extension called Silencer allows users to enter specific hashtags, words or phrases, which will then be blanked out of Twitter and Facebook updates. So the next time there's a wedding in Westeros, users can be sure of spoiler-free surfing until they catch up. The Heartbleed bug continues to cause major problems on the web. The Canadian Tax Authority and Mumsnet, a UK site for parents, both announced this week that they had had data stolen by hackers exploiting the bug. Cyber thieves obtained passwords and messages before Mumsnet fixed its site, while the Canadian Revenue Agency said that 900 people's social insurance numbers had been stolen. And if you're concerned about your security, we've got some handy advice about that right now.
Now, just a quick word on how to protect yourself from this Heartbleed bug that we've been mentioning. Remember, many, although not all, websites, apps and services have been affected. And for each of the affected services that you use, the current advice is to change your password, but only after that service has fixed the problem at its end, which probably will leave you wondering, well, how will I know when that is? So first, here's a sample of some of the larger services that have said they weren't affected at all, so no action is required. And these are some of the major services which have already patched the bug and now recommend changing your password. You'll find a link on our website to a more detailed list of affected services. But there are many more apps, services and sites which have yet to fix the problem. Our advice is to check in with the homepage of each of those services, or maybe even contact them, and only change your password when it's safe to do so. Right, now back to the Albert Hall. Plenty of musicians these days use tablets in their setup, so I thought I'd show you this. This is a neat little app. You draw a picture and record your voice at the same time, like so. La 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 la. Yeah, I know, brilliant. And then so, yeah, I'm sure we can all see the point of that. Anyway, LJ Rich is back now, getting to grips with some more equipment that makes use of the human voice.
If you've always dreamt of mastering the violin but could never get your head around learning how to play, there may be hope for you yet. Imitone is a piece of software that translates voice into musical notes. So you can toot like a trumpet or bow like a bass simply by singing.
Imitone is to allow for musical amateurs and beginners to have a way to get ideas that they have out of their head without needing the dexterity to play.
Sounds great, but to put it to the test, we invited 4 singers from a range of genres to take part in an improvised live performance in none other than the BBC's Live Lounge. Punk princess Kelly, hardcore screamer Joe, folk artist Elle, and death metal rocker Alex. I decided to join in as my operatic alter ego, Madame Eleonora Gennaro. With the mics and the headsets connected to Evan's laptop, and Imitone fired up,
Feels good.
let the dreamlike vocal harmony commence. OK, if you're not wearing headphones, it's hardly a modern-day masterpiece, but hearing the complete composition through the software sounds infinitely more impressive. The magic of Imitone is that it works by using a microphone as a MIDI input, and a specially engineered algorithm identifies the pitch at super speed and assigns a note to your voice. When run alongside music software such as GarageBand, Logic or Ableton, this note can be played out as any digital instrument with no latency. That means you can get almost immediate feedback whilst you perform.
I see it as something that could be a tool for learning and just sort of raw creativity.
There's still a few things to iron out in this alpha version, namely how to tweak the settings to deal with screaming death metal singers and percussion sounds, which are harder for machines to pitch, but it's easy to get carried away.
Even the rehearsals are pretty mind-blowing, let me tell you. You know, for years, technology has really struggled to reproduce those real instruments. And one of the most challenging has always been the piano. But of course, with more powerful machines these days, it has become possible to fool our human ears. But that's come at a cost, human effort. From Boston, Joe Iorardi explains his musical journey.
This is the main page of Ivory, and we have a host of features here where you can simply select the kinds of pianos that you want. You have the ability to hear the pedal noise, so we can turn pedal noises off or on. But the sound quality is another level beyond conventional digital keyboards because we take advantage of the faster processor speed and the larger amounts of memory and larger sample sizes and all that sort of thing. I had worked for a hardware synthesizer manufacturer for almost 20 years. So I made these digital keyboards and digital pianos, as did my partner in crime, George Taylor, software guy. So we had made these instruments for years, but we were constrained by the limitations that the instruments had for memory. You really didn't have a lot of memory. One instrument I did for them, which was very successful, had a 1 megabyte piano. So now our latest piano is 49 gigabytes. It basically goes like this. Play a note. And let it decay to silence. And there's no talking like I'm doing now. There's no moving. There's no breathing. It's about as tedious and boring as it looks because you have to do this multiple times, like I said, for every key, at every conceivable velocity level, at the softest thing you can play to the loudest. Other musicians, they think I must be crazy. I mean, they think it must be torture, and they're right. It is torture. Well, some people think it might be interesting. Some people think, I'd like to go to a sampling session sometime, and usually an hour later they want to leave. I'm willing to say maybe we can never quite completely replicate the experience of sitting behind the physical instrument, but this physical instrument will never be able to do what Ivory can do, which is to give you 9 different pianos at your fingertips.
Joe Iorardi, a man on a musical mission. Okay, time for Webscape now. Did you know that Google handles around 12.5 billion searches every month? But of course, it's not the only service to offer to uncover those hidden online gems, as Kate Russell has been finding out.
I've been searching.
Web search queries tend to work best if they're very literal. But if you take the genre and give it a metaphorical twist, you can uncover some really interesting stuff. Yosarian lives as an experimental search tool that lets you look for images metaphorically, moving a slider to define the conceptual distance from your original query term that the result should be. By clicking the book, you can save the result and add your interpretation of the metaphor.
I know that I'll find happiness.
There is no disputing Google's utter dominance in the search sector. It handled over 2 trillion search queries last year, and over 1 billion people use it to search for content every month. Now, you will get a lot of results if you query Google, but perhaps not the most interesting results.
I've been searching.
Another alternative search tool is Blipex, which instead of ranking results with an algorithm no one understands, mainly because it's a closely guarded secret at Google, it's powered by data collected about real people's browsing habits and behaviour. The longer one of the participating browsers lingers on a page, the more interesting that page is deemed to be, which makes perfect sense to me. You can contribute by installing the browser extension that anonymously tracks your page views.
I've been searching.
From a different kind of search to a different kind of gaming experience, and one that takes me back to the good old days when gameplay was king over special effects and graphical acrobatics. The demo levels of Thomas Was Alone can be downloaded free for Mac and PC, and the full game is also available on PlayStation 3 and Vita.
As the water began to rise, Claire vowed to save this little rectangle in as many restarts as it took.
The curious thing about this game is how attached you can get to a bunch of geometric shapes. No faces, limbs or fashion accessories, just blocks of colour. But they all have their own personalities. In a world where the graphical bells and whistles have become such a big part of gaming, it makes a refreshing change.
The action is brilliantly narrated by Danny Wallace, bringing the whole package together with a slick and professional finish despite the minimalist styling. Chocoholics will be looking forward to Easter this weekend. EasterEggTrail.com has loads of print-out and play-at-home activity ideas to entertain the kids and burn off some of the excess calories. If you're in the UK, it'll also guide you to one of 250 National Trust organised event days, where you'll find egg hunts, face painting and fun activities for all.
You're sweet like chocolate bar.
That's Webscape, and Kate's links are available at our website as usual, bbc.co.uk/click, along with, amongst other things, a link to our sister programme on BBC World Service Radio, also called Click. And just as this musical number draws to a close, I thought I'd show you a website for anyone who has a song they love so much they never want it to end.
Choose a track from the list or upload your own, and the Infinite Jukebox will analyse it, looking for points where the song could be looped or jumped onto different parts of itself. By tapping the resulting circular representation of the track, you can jump around and remix it to your heart's content. And maybe best of all, as it approaches the end, it jumps seamlessly to a much earlier part, so that the song goes on forever.
Music to my ears. Well, someone's ears anyway, I expect. Anyway, that is it now. If we've inspired you to take up a musical instrument, please do. Or if you just fancy tweeting, we live at BBC Click. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.